Hi there, and welcome to another live stream. Here we are in state-controlled Britain, and the weather has been pretty rough. And I just got some great news from the Healing Humanity thing that we did yesterday, which I think I really need to share with you. I'm going to dive straight in and just share a photo because I think it's a little bit amazing that this happened. So before we started, this young chap in the photo came over to me and hugged me. And if you notice on his ears, he's not wearing hearing aids. And his mum was very proud because not that long ago, he had hearing aids and he had 75% hearing loss. And then he had 50% hearing loss. And then he had 25% hearing loss. And now he's got no hearing loss and no hearing aids. And that's the sort of reason I really like doing this sort of thing, because you meet just so many people that have had miraculous results. And that's also the lovely lady who gave me a lift back to the train station, which is why I had to leave really quickly, because it was quite a trek. I walked there, but that's a long story. I'm not going to bore you with that, but I thought that would be nice. But it was a great day. Now, I wasn't on my own. I was with the UK's top nutritionist and amongst others. And here he is on the stage right now, Richard Smith. Hello, Richard.
Good day. You okay?
I'm very well. I see Matthew has put your catchphrase in the chat there. Hello, health seekers.
Hello,
Matthew.
health seekers.
Matthew, did you manage to get the bloods booked to Dr. Robert Kiltz? That would be my question. That'd be really handy. I had to go early. Well, not early. I just go suddenly because, like I say, I got offered a lift back to the station, and I felt I just wanted to be around miraculous people, and it was just a great day. What did you think of it yesterday?
Yeah, incredible. I'm only now getting back, literally 2 seconds ago. So here is my note, my late note with my apple.
That's okay.
Literally, I've just walked into the office. Yeah, literally just walked in, logged in. Another 5-hour trip back. I always seem to catch traffic and accidents. But yeah, incredible event. I think next time Kerry and Adam organize the next one, I think we're hoping it'll be a little bit longer, because we only had that room until 4 p.m. Because we all took a little longer during our little talks, and I didn't go over by much, so it wasn't just
yours was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good.
But I think it was fantastic. The stories were absolutely incredible. The work that these guys are doing is absolutely incredible. I've heard many stories that I haven't heard before from people that I've only recently met. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Now,
wish I could do it all again.
Yes, I can't wait to do it. And Kerry was a fantastic host, actually, and Adam was great. And Dr. Kilt's incredibly generous. And as they mentioned, he travelled in his own dime. Now, Lauren, who I've never spoken to before, asked me a question about Paul Saladino and whether is he genuine? Is he a lovely guy and all this sort of stuff? Right. And I was very diplomatic. But now we're back in the confines. I've got to share, if Richard doesn't mind, I'm going to share a couple of things, a couple of studies, and Richard will get it as soon as I start to do this. So he was on Anthony Chaffee's, this he being Paul Saladino, okay? And he was backing up his belief that fruit juice was great. And he used this study, the effect of watermelon juice, supplementation on heart rate variability and metabolic response during an oral glucose challenge, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover trial. Wow, that sounds like great science. And Anthony is a very lovely guy. Okay, now, if you want to know a little bit more about that study, well, I'm going to give you a little bit more about that study. Okay, I'm going to show you something. And you tell me what you think about the effect of watermelon juice supplementation on heart rate variability study. The funding was funded by the National Watermelon Promotional Board. Okay. Now, yeah, that could be an oversight not to mention it. I don't think so. Also, in that same interview, Anthony Chafee mentioned Bart K. And I'm going to thank Eddie Goki for the next bit, because Paul Saladino said that he didn't know who Bart K was. And Edward Goki then put a clip up of Paul Saladino introducing Bart K and having him on his podcast. So is he nefarious? Has he got a bad memory? I don't know. But that's why I take a lot of what he says with a pinch of salt, because you just scratch the surface and there's lots of things he says really ridiculous. I don't like to knock other influencers, but that is so ridiculous to go onto a podcast with the tenet of talking about fruit juice using a study that is funded by a fruit juice company. To me, that's ridiculous. It's like Richard saying my electrolytes are the best, and here's a study I funded. Yeah, well, he's going to say it's good. It's crazy. So, sorry to hit you with that, Richard, but I felt a little bit on the back foot, because when people ask me stuff like that face to face or I've never met, I'm just always very sort of placid about things. But I think, after 6 years of being carnivore, and I'm particularly annoyed with the fact that I've done this big experiment with a huge washout period of 10 years of not eating carbs, and then going back over the last 3 months, and especially over the last 2 months, the continual glucose monitor. No one can say to me that carbs are really good for you, because it's ruined me. All right, 2 months of an experiment, and I had 4 weeks beforehand trying to get my tolerance up. We talk about the glucose tolerance test. If you're low carb, you'll fail it. Of course you will, because we shouldn't be able to tolerate a load of glucose. We shouldn't be able to tolerate 9 teaspoons of glucose in a drink. So I thought I was going to stop all the arguments. I was going to have a big sort of period of introducing carbs gradually and slowly, do 2 months of carbs. I tell you what, worst thing I've ever done. It's put me back so far. It's incredible. And the reason I'm tying that into what I just said is because honey was reintroduced. So was fruit. It was horrendous. Oatmeal, never a lot. This was my morning oatmeal. 40 grams. Most people don't have that small amount, and it's absolutely ruined me. So anyway, I'm really looking forward. So from this day forward, everyone, I'm going to publicly announce that that's it. I'm going strict carnivore. I quit experiments, and my hat goes off to people like Nick Norwitz experimenting all the time, Dave Feldman. Well, I just can't put carbs into my body to see what happens, because I know what happens. Bananas are no good for me. Fruits are no good for me. Porridge oats are no good for me. Honey's not good for me. And the thing is, I've got hundreds, well over 1,000 clients now, and I tell you what, they just don't do well with fruit and honey. But anyway, enough of the rant. Richard, sorry, it's unlike me to talk a lot, isn't it? But I just wanted to get that all off my chest. Did you want to say any more, or should we go to the questions?
Fantastic. I love it. I love your rants. You went off on a rant yesterday, I think it was about statins. Yeah. So that was fantastic. You did a Richard Smith, which is brilliant.
Yes. It's facts. Yeah, just facts, Right. Should we go to questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. Matthew has put, right. It's like a sort of plant in the audience, but we don't have plants. Matthew said, your talks presentations were amazing. What were your favorite parts of the humanity conference?
My favorite part was listening to everyone else's story. I think they were all new stories to me. In fact, I take that back. It was getting everybody together. We don't very often see our community in one place. So if you live a ketogenic or carnivore lifestyle, at least this is true in my case. I'm quite often ostracized from other groups, friends and family, even, because I'm the weirdo or the freak that just eats meat. So it's difficult in your day-to-day life, unless, you and I, Steve, we connect as we do now. We connect in the school group. We chat outside, but I mean, most of the time it's done by screen. So most of my day-to-day life is spent around people who don't understand maybe what I do, and you almost feel that you're living in a situation in which you have the secret to help people, and you tell them the secret, you give them that little piece of advice to try to help them, and they don't take it. And it's difficult, isn't it? But the event, we were all like-minded people. We all had similar stories. And do you know what I found, which was absolutely extraordinary? Very little of what we do is based on scientific research, because very few of us are living this lifestyle. Yet every single person there who had made better choices, and by better choices, I mean in the means of reducing grains and seed oils and consuming more natural fats and animal proteins, everyone had a success story. Even the people in the audience had conferred some benefit, to gravitating and living this lifestyle. And you can't make that up, so you can't say that this lifestyle isn't beneficial or helpful. But it's everybody together. I just wish that we had more time after to mingle and chat with everyone who made a fantastic effort to come out and see us there. But it was fantastic, incredible event.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? And I think you're right about getting people together. That was my favorite bit. That was literally my favorite thing. Like I say, somebody grabbing you first thing in the morning, wrapping their arms around you and going, "Hey, hello, it's good to see you," and then finding out that they've got rid of their hearing aids. I mean, it obviously very, very personal to me to hear that, having worn my hearing aids since I was 23. I think when you're younger, you're more adaptive. I wish at 23 I'd known about Carnivore. So yeah, that was great. Don't forget to put a QQQ in front of your questions to make them stand out, or you can do a super chat. That'd be really great. If you love the channel, but you've never subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. All these things really help. I mean, I've been shadow banned, and yesterday talking about statins might be why, even though I was only talking about the numbers needed to treat, numbers needed to harm, the actual facts of the matter. This time last year I was getting 2/3 more views and likes and comments and stuff. So yeah, anything you can do to help would be really great. Right. I'm struggling to find questions because nobody's putting QQQ in front of them, but let's have a look at this one. I think this is the first one here. Let's have a look at this. Hi guys, is there a difference in inflammation and cardiovascular risk between triglycerides produced by de novo lipogenesis process and those resulting from the keto adapted state?
Yeah, I think so. I think when we produce excessive amounts of triglycerides via carbohydrate, this is showing an excess of an energy source. When we have high triglycerides living a ketogenic or carnivore lifestyle, this is merely the transportation of our fat throughout the body. And it does fluctuate. And Steve, you can get into the science in regards to the bloods, if you like. But we see triglycerides can increase on a ketogenic and carnivore based lifestyle. The ratio, I believe, is important. I've seen high triglycerides with higher HDL, and I believe that ratio to be more important. And I've seen LDL off the charts. My cholesterol, in fact, is double figures, with my LDL being 8 point something, which is higher than most people's total cholesterol. And if it dips below this, then I'm concerned. There are other things that can cause an imbalance. Cortisol, which we've spoken about a lot recently, in regards to damaging the HPA axis and causing damage to the pituitary. The pituitary plays a very important part in cholesterol and triglyceride production. If this is damaged, it loses its ability to keep within a certain level. So cortisol, again, the stress hormone, massively important in regards to many things within the human body, particularly things downstream of the HPA axis, which can be lots of things. Testosterone, for example, follicle stimulated hormone, luteinizing hormone, estrogen, progesterone, so on and so forth. But I do believe that they are different.
Well, they are, aren't they? Because when you look at de novo lipogenesis, it's the source material is different. So you've got carbohydrates becoming fatty acids, whereas keto is dietary fats, which are just repackaged as triglycerides. So that makes a difference, because you're just taking fat and repackaging it. It's not producing new, as it's a brilliant question, because the sort of answers in the question, because de novo lipogenesis is the introduction of more fat from a carbohydrate source. And then what happens is and we know this from bloods, as you just said, so thanks for that little intro. De novo lipogenesis, which, just for people that don't know, is actually the making of new fat from carbohydrates, basically. That produces high glucose and high insulin, whereas keto, we know, produces a low insulin, low glucose state, because it's repackaged, which is excellent. And even with keto, actually, you get more of a mixture of saturated and unsaturated fats, which surprises a lot of people. And obviously, this is one of the key things I always say about, if saturated fat is bad, why does de novo lipogenesis always produce saturated fat? The body is not stupid. It produces saturated fat, doesn't produce anything else when we look at that particular process. So that's a great question. Yeah, that's good. Right. Oh, one for you, right up your street, Richard. But I can join in if you'd like me to. But Martin is asking. Oh, sorry, there was a super chat. Actually, let's do that super chat. Oh yeah, from the feral grandma. Merry Christmas or happy whatever suits everyone. That's great. Thank you for that.
Kind. Thank you.
Really helpful. Super chats really do make a difference, actually. Right. Now I've lost my place. It was about lectins. It was lectins from Martin. Let's have a look.
Fantastic.
Martin says, oh, here we go. Right. Yes. Do lectins increase the production of insulin? If so, how and why?
Yeah, they bind to the insulin receptor. And when they bind to the insulin receptor, they can increase the production of insulin. I mean, why do things do lots of things? When we consume lots of plant compounds, which are they can cause an estrogen effect. Soy, for example, this can mimic an estrogen within the body. So this can increase estrogen and affect hormone production that way. Plant compounds do this across the board. Lectins exist in animal proteins also, by the way, which we always seem to sidestep. So lectins do exist within the animal kingdom, except they don't appear to cause any of the damage that these plant compounds do. Plants essentially are in an evolutionary arms race for survival. So I guess, is it probably or possibly a phytoalexin, a plant toxin, a chemical that is there for survival purposes, which all plants contain. Every single plant on the planet contains a plant compound or toxin, which is there to ward off or kill another predator. So lectins from plants, in my opinion, have no place within the human body, but they do bind to the insulin receptors and they will signal the increase of insulin. They'll also block leptin, which is a satiety hormone, but it can lead to the storage of up to 5 times more fat than the elicitation of insulin alone from glucose from the foods that we consume. So lectins, incredibly damaging. They'll bind to the enterocytes on the epithelial cells lining the gut. They'll cause the release of a molecule called zonulin. And when zonulin's released, it'll cause a gap to appear between the tight junction on the epithelial cells, which is, this is leaky gut. So this will lead to undigested proteins traveling into the bloodstream where they shouldn't be. So the body goes through a process where it ends up attacking these wheat germ agglutinins and phytohemagglutinins, which bind to other cells within the body. So when they attack these lectins, these glutenins, wheat germ agglutinin, phytohemagglutinin, they end up attacking our own cells within the body. And this is what autoimmune is. So lectins should be avoided. The biggest offenders are wheat germ agglutinin, which are found in grains. But we also have things like phytohemagglutinin, which are predominant in things like tomatoes and bell peppers, nuts and seeds. So even if we're living a ketogenic-based lifestyle, we need to be mindful of the phytohemagglutinins, the lectins within the plant kingdom. And quite often, someone who is living a ketogenic lifestyle and tracking only carbohydrate, they will plateau for a period of time. And this is more than likely a lectin issue. So we're living a ketogenic lifestyle where we're consuming lots of low-carb vegetables that are high in lectins, and there are lots of them. But again, this is an incremental journey. So if you're only new to low-carb and ketogenic way of living, and that is something that allows you to maintain the journey, then this is a positive step. But it's through these incremental changes we learn how some of these compounds can affect the body in a negative way, and we tend to remove them over a period of time. It took me many years to remove plants. As Stephen knows, I've been ketogenic for 5 or 6 years, maybe a little bit longer, before I became what I'd class as carnivore. Always or predominantly animal based, although when I did gravitate into a ketogenic way of living, I predominated vegetables because I believed everything that I'd been told from a young age, that they were the magic elixir of health and well-being, and they contained all of these magical compounds, vitamins and minerals. And as we gravitate into the journey, we learn and we study and we experiment, and we learn and understand that these compounds are not beneficial, and we can obtain everything from an animal-based lifestyle. There's nothing that we require from a plant.
No, absolutely. One thing I've always meant to say to you, the binding to receptors, it does bind to beta cells as well, lectins, and it, so it stimulates the pancreas, and that is one of the side effects of it being a defense of the plant, is that ability to bind to cells and to bind to receptors. So it's, the cell surface, that ability to interrupt it is going to have a knock-on effect with pretty much anything that eats it. So, a small bug that eats it is going to find their mechanism messed up exactly the same as us, as humans. But there you go. And I think you're right. I'm right in saying you have a figure for the amount lectins increase insulin. I think it's more than carbs. It's like 5 times. Yeah. So, okay, cool.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. 5 times is a lot.
5
right.
times.
Tam now is saying, see, we're trying to whiz through the questions. We always run out of time. Now, I'm just going to say this to people. Don't do your question 1 minute to 8 o'clock, because we finish at 8 and then we go and do our extra time in our school community, which is for members. You can become a member of our school community to do that extra 30 minutes, but get your questions in early, and a super chat will push you up and get you priority. Right. So Tam Higgs, been on Carnivore for over 2 weeks. Now we've got somebody called Tam Hughes, I think. But anyway, been on Carnivore for over 2 weeks and not lost anything. If anything, I've gained just eating eggs, minced steak and bacon. Do you think it's to do with my replacement, as I've had 2 surgeries? If you've had 2 surgeries, I mean, post-operative hyperglycemia is really common. It's one of those things that's not discussed enough, actually, because people go into surgeries and worry about things like infections and, infections within the hospital and those sort of things. But the outcomes after surgery can be, temporary. You can definitely have hyperglycemic events after surgery. It's estimated it could put people into type 2 diabetes, maybe 2 out of 3 people that have surgery. So, I don't know what your surgeries are, but that is the facts. I mean, obviously some people don't have that problem ongoing. Remember that diabetes is not a disease as such. It's defined as chronic elevated blood glucose levels, and that's going to be the thing that's going to happen, because what delivers the nutrients to the body to heal, and that's your blood. So your blood is going to have more blood glucose. It's going to have more of everything, pretty much, which is why blood straight after surgery are a bit different to every other time. So if you've gained, I mean, there's so many things there, Rich, isn't there? I mean, if you've had surgery, I don't think we've got enough information. If you've had surgery, are you less active? Are you eating, just eating more? What was the surgery for? What do you think? Can we really answer that? I don't think we can with that.
Yeah, possibly not. I mean, we can give, you've given a few things there, Steve. I mean, it could be medication causing issues. Medication can cause many problems with weight loss. If you've recently just had surgery, the body's going to be in a state of repair. So all of these fatty acids and amino acids are going to be used to heal and repair the body. Quite often, many people that I work with gravitate into this way of living, and their bodies are incredibly damaged, and they do gain weight. So this is a healing process. Some people lose weight, some people will gain it. Healing is job number 1. Healing the gut is job number 1, and we need to heal the gut and heal the body. Beyond this, if we're ticking all those boxes, then we'd be looking at food intake. Now, we know that we can consume considerably more food living a ketogenic carnivore-based lifestyle for a number of factors, but you can gain weight living a carnivore lifestyle. You don't see it very often, and you do need to eat an awful lot, but you need to eat an awful lot of fat. And this is the lever. Fat is incredibly important. Fat makes up every cell in the body. But if you want to gain weight and you consumed lean protein, you'd be hard-pressed to gain weight. In fact, well, we know through rabbit starvation, lean proteins cause you to lose weight. And that's how important fats are. So the lever there is the extra fat. So, Tam, you may be consuming far too much fat is another thing. But we wouldn't know this unless maybe we spoke one-to-one or had a little bit more information. Maybe, this could be something we could go through in the school group when we finish this on YouTube at 8 p.m. and we transition over to the school. But not enough information there. But I think we've given some suggestions potentially, Steve. But healing is so important. Healing is incredibly important.
Yes, I think that's right. I think you did an admirable job of adding a little bit to my very basic answer. Right, let's go to the next question. Oh, wow, here we go. This is nice to know. We'll just read this one. Gazamongo 1. Richard's chocolate MCT powder is great. I funded my N=1 study just to try it. Yum. That's quite funny. Fantastic. Yes. Self-funded study. Yeah.
Love it. The chocolate MCT, fantastic. I created that for my daughter to use for her love of hot chocolate. MCT, medium chain triglycerides, instantly convert into ketones, whether you're ketogenic or not. Anyway, I won't bore you too much with this, but incredibly beneficial.
Great stuff. I'd go into more detail, but we've got a ton of questions there. But yes, it's great. The MCT powder, chocolate powder is really good. Right, and we've got Robert here, or should I say Bob? There was my little Rowan Atkinson impression there, the Blackadder one. Bordrick. It's Bob. Anyway, right. So eating healthy carbs. Oh, well, we're going to stop there. Healthy carbs. Oxymoron. Well,
what's a healthy carb?
Right. We'll take the question as it is. Eating healthy carbs after protein intake is wise? ? We need energy to do something with the amino acids. The anabolism does not run on amino acids alone. What's the best balance for carbs, protein?
Zero.
Right.
Zero carbs.
Yeah.
Carbs do not increase muscle protein synthesis at all. No. Zero whatsoever. If adequate protein is consumed. It's not the protein per se, the anabolic amino acid in particular, which are 3, leucine predominates. You only need leucine. Adequate leucine will activate mTOR and allow you to heal, build, and repair. Carbs do not build muscle. They literally add 0, providing you're consuming adequate protein. So carbs do not build muscle. You do not need carbs with your protein. In fact, consuming protein and carbs will only increase the insulin to glucagon ratio by as much as 2,000%. Which we don't want. This is enough to pull one from a ketogenic or carnivore state. Only consuming protein will not do this because gluconeogenesis, which is demand driven, and this is the conversion of protein and lipid into glucose, which the body does need, but we make all of the glucose that we need via this process. So we send lactate, and we almost perform glycolysis in reverse, bar a few enzymes. I think there's 3 enzymes in there which are different, but we convert this lactate into glucose via gluconeogenesis. So we do not need exogenous carbohydrate. They do not increase muscle protein synthesis, but guess what does increase muscle protein synthesis? So the co-ingestion of protein with fat increases muscle protein synthesis. 0 carb achieved on my bodybuilding days. I was carnivore. I managed to build muscle hand over fist on 0 carb, and I thankfully went on to compete and become professional, British champion, and eventually European champion in men's physique bodybuilding, all on 0 carbohydrate. 0 carb. Where was I going with that? Carbs do not build muscle. That is how much carbs build muscle. So we do not need carb.
But just to highlight, he's worried about energy because the energy comes from fats. So, sorry, go on.
No, fire away.
Yeah, so don't forget the fat will help the absorption of amino acids because when you eat fat, firstly, you get energy from the fat. It's long-lasting energy and it's slow release, which is really good. And also it will stimulate the release of bile. but many people think bile just works with fat. No, it works also with amino acids. So the absorption of amino acids is much better in the presence of bile, which is why if you have protein and carbs, you don't get such good bioavailability from it. But that's a great question, Robert. Cheers. Thanks for that. Next question. Hi, guys. Do you think 1 meal a day is enough to build and maintain muscle on Carnivore? I do heavy weight training and sprinting, but never hungry after the first meal. Answered his own question there, Mohammed. If you eat enough and you won't feel hungry after that, that's sort of telling you that you have eaten enough, because your hunger signals you're listening to, which is much easier to do with carnivore or ketogenic or even low carb when you're under 20 grams. You can know when you are full, and you can know when you are hungry again. Now, if you are training and you're disappointed with any muscle growth, if you feel like your training is flagging, then possibly you could need to eat later. But it sounds to me from the question that you're doing heavy weight training, you're sprinting, and you're never hungry. So obviously your 1 meal a day is enough. But for some people it isn't. If you're new, my caveat to this is whenever we answer a question like that, there's hundreds of other people that are going to have a completely different situation. They might be new to this way of eating. They might not have a gallbladder. They might have an aversion to eating a lot of food because they've had a eating disorder and are worried about gaining weight, and therefore they have to have smaller meals with more frequency. So in general, to answer your question, I think you're doing the right thing because you're not hungry.
Yeah, I think listening to your body is incredibly important. Listening to these satiety signals. We can increase the mTOR activation and reset in order to move the boundary. But maybe we won't have enough time with all the questions that we got there to go into today. But I agree. I think, Steve, if you're training and you're healing, building, and repairing off 1 meal, then it's adequate. I do think that there are levers that we can pull to further enhance this, and potentially maybe even training first, training fasted and eating after. You may find that your satiety will increase. A lot of people who consume food before they train, they no longer feel hungry after. We can get into the mTOR reset later if we have time. There are levers that we can pull. To further increase muscle growth and healing and repairing.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like you're being edited by me when I said there's lots of questions, because that mTOR activation. If I think if the question said I'm struggling to gain muscle, then we could get into that. If you want to know more about training and mTOR activation, you can always book Richard for a consultation, because Richard is absolutely stunningly brilliant at all that sort of stuff and tell you exactly what you need to do and when to eat and why you're eating at that particular time. So that's what I would say. And you could also look up mTOR activation in carnivore or ketogenic bodybuilding, and you also will see some great information about that. Or join our school and ask that question. Learn Better, Do Better is asking, is it worth testing for ketones using the strips if being fully carnivore? Right. I have no affiliation with this company whatsoever. 1 Step 10 urine test strips. It's on my desk for a reason. They do more than just test for ketones. Remember that urine is a waste product. Okay, so what is on that strip is what your body has decided it doesn't need. That is important, because what's in the blood is what your body is needing temporarily and shifting around your body. So urine is waste. But because you get like 10 different things in there, glucose, bilirubin, ketones, specific gravity is an important one, I think. pH, protein, nitrates, those sort of things. You can test many other things as well, not just your ketones. It is a good yardstick, no pun intended. It's a smaller stick than a yard, by the way. And it can get you going. It is cheap. It's inexpensive. It's very easy to do. But in saying that, what's the utility? I don't know if there's much utility. I started my ketogenic diet and it took me 2 weeks to realize that I was literally weeing my money down the toilet. I don't think there's much utility. Now, if you are worried about being underhydrated, overhydrated, they're very good, because you can look at the specific gravity, which is parts per million. And remember that urine is waste. It needs to have a straw color. If it's clear, you are drinking too much water. That's definite, and you'll be told that by this magic strip that tells you your specific gravity is not correct. Right? Okay. Should we go on, or did you want to add, Rich?
No, spot on.
Okay. I'm feeling like a schoolmaster today. I'm really sorry.
No
Matthew,
problem.
I told oh boy, I tell you, this comment, it's not so much a question, it's more a comment, but I think it's going to resonate. I told my mum and stepdad about it yesterday. They told me I am wrong about red meat and that the doctors are right. They refused to listen to my argument that doctors follow misleading food guidelines. Yep. All been there, Matthew. We've all probably been there. Even when you've lost a ton of weight, you've reversed your diabetes, you're off your blood pressure medications, you're sleeping better than you've ever slept, you've got better energy, your cognitive ability is better, what you're doing is going to kill you. We've all been there, and I'm sorry, people still believe the white coat all the time. You can tell a little bit tainted after 15 years of rehab and 10 in the realm of low carb and 7 in the world of keto and 6 doing carnivore. It's very, very upsetting, but just keep being the example. If you're well, you're healthy, don't ram it down other people's throats. Don't be that vegan type person and argue with everyone. Just keep doing what you're doing and people will eventually come to what you're thinking. That isn't just to Matthew, that's to everybody out there with that frustration. Richard did his brilliant talk yesterday and he got everyone to stand up. Everyone who's felt isolated, ostracized, and nearly everyone in the room stood up. So we've all experienced it. Good talk, Richard. Right. Josh here from Knox Strength Personal Training. I can't go this weekend, unfortunately. So sorry to miss you. Do you know when the next conference is in 2025?
I do not. Yeah, unsure of. There are lots of conferences occurring. We're looking to create and plan the next Carnivore conference. There are lots of other conferences that are happening in regards to PHC. Yeah, we need to get the diary out. I think, Stephen, start planning because there's lots going on, isn't there? I'll be traveling to Marbella early part of the year to speak for Alan Reeves. Which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, there's lots going on, but I do not know when Kerry Mann's next event is. But it was incredible, absolutely incredible, not to be missed on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly uninterested. That's a name, not me saying what I felt about Richard's last pronouncement. I take Natto to keep my arteries clear. I am a senior with heart attack history. Would you recommend this? My blood pressure is controlled on Carnivore. I can definitely say I understand why you take it because it's, a Japanese fermented dish, isn't it? And the Japanese have low levels of cardiovascular disease. But is it the enzyme? Is it the nattokinase in that's actually good because that dissolves blood clots? Or is it the K2? Because it's high in vitamin K2. And I often talk about K2 is essential for moving calcium out of the soft tissue and into the bone, which is what it does, especially the MK7. So I think, it is fermented. So some people think it's the probiotic effect. It's also pushed because it's low saturated fat, which I think is ridiculous. So it's probably the K2. I'm not even going to talk about isoflavins because Richard might. But anyway, what do you reckon about Natto?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. It's not to say that you can't consume these things. We mentioned a few fermented foods yesterday. I think they have their place during the transition. But would we have consumed them across the world in all forms? And we wouldn't have. I mean, we're all biologically the same, regardless of where we come from on the planet. We would have consumed natural fats, animal proteins. We would have at some point fermented certain foods, but do we need to? Well, I've never eaten natto for any form of health. No. I don't have any calcification on my arterial walls. What causes calcification? What causes damage to the arterial wall? Well, it's glycation and oxidative stress. So glycation, which is caused by excessive amounts of carbohydrate, and oxidative stress, which is caused by a number of things, but particularly from vegetable oils or seed oils. These two combined will be a huge contributing factor to cardiovascular disease. We remove these, eat animal proteins and natural fats. Saturated fats are not the contributor to cardiovascular disease, by the way. Cholesterol does not clog your arteries. This is a fallacy. There are a number of means and reasons why the arterial wall would be damaged, and we know that the arteries are under extreme pressure, especially at the joints. But what causes the body to heal and repair? What allows us to heal and repair? Well, it's cholesterol. Our cholesterol allows us to heal and repair. So the body will send out its lipid cargo in the form of LDL in order to drop off its lipid cargo to heal and repair the body before returning back to the liver to be recycled and sent back out on its journey again. And the liver recognizes these LDL packages when they come back empty after dropping off their lipid cargo, and they recognize it by a receptor called ApoB100 receptor, and then it's recycled and sent back out on its merry way. Now, if you reduce the amount of fats in your diet, your body will increase the amount of cholesterol that it requires. So this is how intuitive the human body is. But LDL's job is to heal and repair the body. So where there's damage, it will travel there, drop off cargo, come back, job done. When the ApoB100 receptor is damaged via glycation and oxidative stress, which is what's caused the damage in the first place, by the way. So consuming excessive amounts of carbohydrate completely destroys the glycocalyx on the arterial wall. And it takes up to 6 to 8 hours, or 8 to 12 even, to completely recover. But we are told to consume foods little and often. If we are consuming carbohydrates, particularly from grains, then we're constantly causing this damage to the arterial wall. So LDL is just trying to perform its job, trying to perform its duty by healing and repairing the body. But once the LDL is denied access and it continues to circulate within the body, now we've got a damaged LDL particle. We've got a damaged LDL particle which will travel into the subendothelial space where there are cells called macrophages. And these macrophages have a scavenger receptor which recognize the damaged ApoB100 receptor. And in an attempt to clean up, it engulfs these damaged LDL particles and it crams them in until this grows into a form cell. And the form cell can become an atherosclerotic plaque. But it's not cholesterol that's caused it. In fact, cholesterol wants to heal and repair. And interestingly, when we look at studies of cholesterol being at the site of an atherosclerotic plaque, there is actually no cholesterol there. All we see is the void where cholesterol once was. And we don't know whether it's actually human cholesterol or plant sterols, because plant sterols look so close to human cholesterol that when we consume them, the body reduces the amount of cholesterol it produces naturally because it thinks it has enough. But these plant sterols can't carry out the same type of work as our human cholesterol, and they end up causing havoc within the body. And again, they're one of the main contributors to the damage. But when we send these fake cholesterols to this site of damage to heal and repair, they can't heal and repair them. So one theory is that the macrophages are in fact engulfing our plant sterols that we're consuming, and it's in fact these that they're spitting back out because they don't want them, because they don't recognize them, and it's these that may be contributing. Either way, whether it's the plant sterols that we find at the voids at the site of these atherosclerotic plaques, if we avoid the compounds that are causing the damage, and again, it's excessive amounts of carbohydrates, excessive amounts of grains in particular, then we are not going to cause this oxidative stress, this oxidation and glycation. Therefore, we don't cause the damage. Cholesterol can carry out its job, and we don't get this buildup of atherosclerotic plaques. So, my opinion, in short, so the short answer is eat animal proteins and natural fats. And if you are consuming carbohydrate, consume very little. Carb is damaging to the body. It's a toxin. This is why your body pulls it out of circulation from the blood and puts it into the muscle. It's to save your life, because excessive amounts of glucose in circulation is toxic to the human body. So we don't store glycogen to be used at a later date. We store that in order to save your life, to pull it out of circulation, to keep you alive. And then when glucose returns back to a steady level, the body will start releasing this stored glycogen back into circulation for us to use up at a steady rate in order to remove it from the body, in the same way that it does with other toxins like alcohol. This is why alcohol will take oxidative priority, for example, because it's such a toxin to the body. The body will use this for energy immediately to remove it from your system. So in short, eat an evolutionary appropriate diet, animal proteins and natural fats.
Brilliant. Yes. Now then, we've got 2 super chats. So I want to recognize Bobby. Thank you very much for that super chat. That's really very helpful. And it's a very specific question for Richard. Richard, I'm waiting for your products to be available for purchase through Amazon in the US. Is that in the works?
Not currently. We are trying. So Amazon available in the UK. You can buy direct from my website for the States. So we do ship to the States. Carriage cost is expensive. We don't make anything on carriage. It goes through via FedEx, and we simply charge, what we are charged. In fact, we quite often take a hit on the carriage because it's a guesstimated carriage cost based on the average order, which we work at around 2 kilograms, I think, which is 4.4 pounds. If you order in bulk, it usually costs us more to ship. But the extra that is cost you on carriage will be split between the amount of products that you've ordered. So you can buy direct from the website, which is theketopro.com. Currently not available on Amazon, but we are moving into Europe shortly. So we are in the process of getting Amazon Germany set up. There are lots of rules and regulations in regards to selling in different territories on Amazon. So you can't just go on to Amazon UK and sell anywhere in the world. You've got to register for tax and need fiscal representatives. And we've got to go through a costly process, which is costing a lot of money and it's time expensive just to sell in Germany. So we can't even sell to other parts of Europe. We have to do all of these things one at a time. We do want to get to the States eventually, but we'll probably be selling in the States via other means before we get to Amazon. But you can buy direct from the website.
Brilliant. That's great. Tina, thank you for the super chat. That's really good. We'll be coming to Mr. Joe Bott's one as well. Tina is asking thoughts on recommendations on the use of N-acetylcysteine supplement by someone with autoimmune issues for its antioxidant benefits. Obviously, it's a derivative of the amino acid cysteine and a precursor to glutathione. But I think, Richard, this is one of your clients, isn't it? I believe.
It is. Tina, fantastic supporter of our YouTube channel, another a follower and supporter of our fantastic school group, which you and I are going live on in 13 minutes when we get off this call. Steve, I'm sure we'll put a link into the comments if anybody wants to join us over there. Look, I'm not a fan. NAC can activate the NRF2 pathway. So autoimmune, let's break this down. Autoimmune issues come from intestinal permeability. So let's heal the gut. To heal the gut, we need to remove the offending compounds. What are the offending compounds? Well, they're going to be things like wheat germ agglutinin, which come from grains, phytohemagglutinin, which come from plants, casein, which can come from milk, alcohol, for example. What else have we got? Medications. All of these can cause intestinal permeability. The quickest way to heal the gut is remove the grains, as Tina already knows. Casein can be problematic for some living a carnivore lifestyle. So remove them, and this is the best way to heal the gut. Beyond that, antioxidant benefits. Well, what increases glutathione? Well, ketosis, being ketogenic, increases glutathione, and it does so without activating the NRF2 pathway, which means we can do this without going down a pro-oxidant pathway. The production of ketones will increase glutathione in the same way as environmental hormesis does. And that is true hormesis, by the way, whereas molecular hormesis, which comes from plants, does so via the NRF2 pathway, which is an oxidative stress pathway. So the fact is, if you live in a ketogenic lifestyle, being ketogenic increases glutathione, it increases NAD+, and all of these fantastic compounds that are available from supplementation. Just live a ketogenic lifestyle. I would preference exogenous ketones over anything else because ketones confer so many benefits downstream in regards to blocking inflammation, increasing mechanical efficiency of the heart and blood flow, mental clarity, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. So we got the wonderful Andrew Scarborough there, which is saying being in ketosis can activate the NRF2 pathway.
It can, but it's short-lived. It's short-lived.
Yeah.
So if we look at the activation of the NRF2 pathways, this happens when we begin the journey. And it does so because we're coming from a lifetime of carbohydrates. So it's a shock to the system. But it's also something that isn't activated when we've been in ketosis for prolonged periods of time, and these compounds from plants will overactivate the NRF2 pathway. The NRF2 pathway in short term can be beneficial, and this is how medication works. So if we take medication in the short term, it can activate this pathway. It will elicit an elevation of glutathione, but glutathione will drop below baseline pretty quickly. Whereas living a ketogenic lifestyle or activating glutathione via environmental hormesis, which ketosis is, by the way. So what do I mean by this? Well, we can elicit ketones and a ketogenic state without eating food. I.e., if we're going through a famine or food's not available, the body will increase ketones. So therefore, it's environmental because there's no food available. So it's nothing to do with something that we're eating. It's environmental. The food isn't available. But the NRF2 pathway activation, when we begin a ketogenic lifestyle in the beginning, occurs, but it doesn't occur to any extremity beyond that. So it's any activation beyond this is going to be short-lived and not overexpressed. There are crossovers. There are many crossovers. Overactivation, so if we think of NRF2 as a bell curve, the overactivation of the NRF2 pathway will elicit a response of another pathway called nuclear factor kappa B, which will lead to loads of inflammatory cytokines, interleukins, and so on and so forth. So they're two very different things. But a lifetime of not being in a ketogenic state to jumping into ketogenic state is a stress on the body. It is a stress, and this is why we need to go through these initial phases of fat adaptation and keto adaptation. And Andrew, who is he's a great supporter, and he lives a ketogenic lifestyle, an incredibly strict one, probably the strictest carnivore that I know on the planet. But I know he's always seeking to increase his ketones to a higher level for his condition.
Yeah, and he's too nice. I mean, wow, he's got everything. He's got everything going for him. He's intelligent. He's nice. He's polite. He's wonderful. Big supporter. Yeah. Right. Can't big you up anymore, Andrew. I'm sorry. And a great Substack. There you go. Which is definitely worth subscribing to. So we should shout out at Dr. Abs, by the way, but we won't. So I'm not even going to mention Dr. Abs, who's on a flight at the moment. Right now, then we're going to stick with you, Rich, if you don't mind. Because I know you have a great knowledge on this. Does caffeine affect gut permeability? Also, do you think Coke Zero would affect it?
Possibly. I don't think it would be the main offender. I think it may be a contributor. But caffeine wouldn't be, in regards to gut permeability, wouldn't be my first concern because it's a potent neurotoxin. It's even more potent from coffee because of the mycotoxins and the acrylamide. So acrylamide is a potent neurotoxin, and it's far more damaging than caffeine itself. If you are consuming caffeine, I would say to consume caffeine on its own, i.e. via a caffeine supplement, rather than coming from coffee per se. Would Coke Zero affect intestinal permeability? If you already have damage, then it can be a contributor. I don't think it can cause it. I may be wrong, but that wouldn't be my main cause of concern when it comes to caffeine. It's the neurological effects that I would be more concerned about. But caffeine on its own seems to be far less problematic than when it's found in other drinks, i.e. things like coffee. But Coke Zero, what else is in there? We've probably got sulforaphane, or not sulforaphane, what we talk, sucralose or aspartame, incredibly damaging to the body. So these are also chemicals that I wouldn't want to consume. Now, interestingly, if you were to test your insulin or blood glucose on Coke Zero, you may see an increase in blood glucose despite there being zero carbohydrate in there. Now, we don't see this off other sweeteners like erythritol and stevia, but we do off drinks like Coke Zero. Aspartame, the research, this is something I've been looking into, and maybe we can get into this on the next call. Aspartame, detrimental. Don't believe the studies that are coming out that say that aspartame isn't damaging to the body. It's a toxin, incredibly toxic. In an ideal world, don't drink Coke Zero. Now, what I would add, if you're gravitating into the lifestyle and this is your crutch and it's your one vice that allows you to maintain the journey, then this becomes a positive. because this one thing allows you to maintain the journey. And this is all about the rule and not the exception. If you were eating everything else in regards to being ketogenic and carnivore, and you're thriving, and it's this one thing that you keep in that allows you to maintain the journey, then this is a benefit to you. But always look towards moving the goals. Always look to breaking boxes, which is something that I spoke about in particular yesterday. Break the boxes. So look, today this could be a crutch. Look at reducing over time, and look for another alternative. Now, look for an electrolyte drink or something warm that you can drink, bone broth. There are lots of alternatives that you can swap Coke Zero for. So ideally, come away, but it does depend on your situation and where you are on your journey.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. Jonathan, Carnivore Muscle, is somewhat present. Poor old Jonathan had an operation on his shoulder, so I understand present somewhat. Sorry, it's a funny remark there. Now then, we've got 5 minutes to go. Robert, just very quick. Epitalon, which is that good for the pituitary? I'm always very skeptical of anything that's a synthetic peptide, because it's a construct in a lab. I'm assuming you were going to dive in there, Richard. So do you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be beneficial is the short answer. I haven't researched, but you've taken the words right out of my mouth. It's a peptide. It's synthetic. It's not identical. I know they say these things are bioidentical, but they mean very different things depending on compound to compound. If it's not created in the human body, or it doesn't come from something that it can be created within the human body, I'm always skeptical. I don't know is the answer, but there are other ways to heal and repair the pituitary. Quite often, damage to the adrenals, or what we call adrenal fatigue, is actually damage to the pituitary. High fat, living a ketogenic carnivore-based lifestyle, avoiding stressful situations, avoid excessive amounts of training can help heal and repair the pituitary. Keep your training to 45 minutes or an hour. Start incrementing and implementing things like meditation, breathing techniques. All of these can help heal and repair the HPA axis, because this is where the damages come in. So it's been caused by a stressed state, in short, from excessive amounts of stress, which can come from overtraining, stress in life in general, and many other things. Excessive coffee consumption, too much running, and so on and so forth. But
all right, well, that's a brilliant segue into the last question. Another super chat from Martin, or not another one from Martin, another super chat. This one's from Martin, and he's just, Stephen, I think you do sprints. What format and how often? I was doing sprints. I was doing 10 sprint intervals, and basically I went to my gym, which has a running track, and I was doing a 100-meter sprint. So I would sprint for 100 meters, and then I would walk back, and then I would sprint for 100 meters, and then I would walk back, and then I would do 100 meters and sprint again, and then I would do 50 meters, same thing, and just keep repeating until I'd done 10 sprints. So if the first 3 were 100 meters, and then the last 7 were 50 meters. Then I occasionally would do some sort of zigzaggy stuff. But now I'm playing football on a more regular basis on a Wednesday. I actually have stopped doing that, but I do more football related training with cones and those sort of things, like changing direction very quickly. Right, which is really great. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to ask more questions, I'm sorry that we didn't get to everybody's question. We like to give you value for money, and it's really frustrating because we actually got to 194 viewers live. I was hoping to hit over 200, but we're getting there, which is great. So I appreciate everybody looking in, which is really good. Welcome to many new people to Richard's channel, which is really good. It's been a long time coming, but now it's really taking off, which is great. If you haven't seen Richard's channel, definitely go over and subscribe. If you're on Richard's channel, you haven't seen mine, definitely come over and subscribe, because it helps us both. If you could subscribe to both, which is really handy. And some people even watch it on both feeds, but I don't think that's happened tonight, which is really interesting. So if you want to join us on school, it's really simple. I'm going to put a link in the chat again. You click on that link, you become a member, then you go up to the top of the screen where it says calendar. You click on the calendar, you come to Sunday, and there we are, 8 p.m. as a school community. If you just like us on YouTube and you just want to watch this hour, that is truly fantastic. Sorry if we didn't get to every question, but it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you.
Thank you all. hopefully see you all in school.